by the rivers of Babylon. Yeah, we sat down and we cried when we remembered Jerusalem. We were sick, Lord, near to dying. Oh,
Shalom, shalom, family, and welcome to another Tanakh review. My name is Zurishaddai, one of the teachers of congregation. D.C.B. CHOKMAH. We're located in the Red Hood section of Brooklyn, New York, giving all honor, praise, and glory to the Most High, King of the universe, Yehudah, for life, food, clothing, and shelter, wisdom, knowledge, and above all, understanding. Thanking all of you for tuning in to us once again, for allowing us to reach you in your home. So wherever you might be at, you might be traveling, you might be, somewhere out in the, on vacation, but you're tuning in to us. Early Shabbat Shalom to all of you. Once again, giving glory to the Most High. And I'm thankful to the Most High God for life, food, clothing, and shelter, waking us all up this morning and giving glory to his high and holy name forever. So today, since we finished the book of Ecclesiastes last week, we're going to go into the statutes of comfort, which are 7 of them. So Nasik will be just going over the particular sidrot that are designated for each one of those weeks. And then I'm sure he probably going to touch a little bit on the Haftorah, and but we basically doing that, no added chapters, just going to expound on that and highlight some certain points from it. So without any further ado, I will turn it over to one of my teachers and one of my mentors, even Nasik, Zurishaddai ben Yehudah. How are you, Nasik?
Great, Baruch Hashem. First of all, I'd like to give praises to the Supreme Intelligence of the universe, God of my forefathers, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob. Due respects to the platform on the D.C.B channel platform, spiritual leader, Chief Prince Area BINAH Saskad, the host Chief Uzael, to the princes, chiefs, rabbinate, Kohanim, Mordarim, brothers and sisters and visitors to the channel. I greet you all in the time of my forefathers, Shalom Aleichem, and an early Shabbat Shalom. And I'd like to start off as usual, Adonai Septai Titaku Piyagi Tiarateaka. O Lord, open down my lips, my mouth should declare that praise. Since it was a leap year, we had several weeks before we start over in the book of Genesis, known as Bereshit. So at this particular time, they have like after last couple weeks, a few weeks, we had 3 weeks of Shabbat, where we was being in the Haftorah, where we was being scolded and told about ourselves because of our actions. And this Shabbat just passed. Like Shabbat before, was basically Shabbat Kazon, which was vision, taken from the first words of Isaiah. And also now this time we're going to be also in the book of Isaiah. So the week before was called Shabbat Kazon, and then this week it's called Shabbat Nakamu. Nakamu is comfort, and we only get 3 weeks of hard, tongue lashing because of our actions, and we have 7 weeks to tell us, to empower us, to comfort us, to try to help us reflect how to get closer to the Creator as we go into that particular season of judgment. So the Sidra starts, which is called Waetchanan, which is in our basalt. It starts from Deuteronomy, the 3rd chapter, the 23rd verse, And it continues all the way up to the 7th chapter and ends at the 11th verse. That's where it ends at. There's a lot of, and the Haftorah is Isaiah 40th chapter of Isaiah, and it goes from the beginning of Isaiah, the 40th chapter, to the 26th verse. So I'm just going to highlight some points within here because I'm sure a lot of the teachers on the regular, on various communities already expounded on it. So hopefully I don't be that redundant, though basically Deuteronomy is a redundant thing considering most history besides a few things that they added, to remind, so we encountered, like I said last time, some new laws, but it's always repeating a lot of old laws, so sometimes redundancy is necessary. So to start off, in the beginning of the particular sidra, it says in the 23rd verse of the 3rd chapter, and I besought the Lord at that time, saying, O Lord God, thou hast begun to show thy servant thy greatness and thy strong hand. For what God is there in heaven or on earth that can do according to thy works and according to thy mighty acts? Let me go over, I pray thee, and see the good land that is beyond the Jordan, that goodly hill country and Lebanon. But the Lord was wroth with me for your sakes, and hearken not unto me. And the Lord said unto me, let it suffice thee. Speak no more unto me of this matter. Get thee up into the top of Pisgah, and lift up thy eyes westward and northward and southward and eastward, and behold with thy eyes, for thou shalt not go over this Jordan, but charge Joshua and encourage him and strengthen him, for he shall go over before this people, and he shall cause them to inherit the land which thou shalt see. So we abode in the valley over against Beth Peor. Now, what is interesting is that a lot of commentators and a lot of sages take the word Waetchanan, which the root word is Cain, really, which is grace. And often they use the letters as numbers, and they numerated 515 times. It sums up to 515 times with the letters as it's spelled in Hebrew. So they normally would say that Moses asked that request 515 times. Now, when do you say, I pray to God about this matter enough? Do you wait after 515 times to God at least give you an answer and say, stop praying? Or you continue to pray. And then if he tell you to stop praying concerning that matter, do you stop thinking about the matter? So those are some things to, to consider. And what is, it's so striking that I find, and though I always refer to this as one of the most somber and sad portions of the book, the opening, as far as the opening of a sidra, is it's dealing with a man of a stature such as Moshe. We also say Moshe Rabbeinu, one of our master teachers, the lawgiver. Here, a man, this man that dealt with us for 40 years, and he's denied, and he tell you that God was angry for our sake. But what about how many times he stood up for our sake, this individual man? So when you're talking about grace, you're saying, I'm not trying to bring my resume, to show that I earn a certain type of audience. I earn this kind of a pass. Moses wasn't looking for that. And what do you mean for the people's sake? How you explain that God was angry because of your sake? So those are some of the things that would stimulate a lot of conversation in that area. And what is really I find more profound is that only 2 times in Moses' life that his prayer was denied. Only twice in his life that his prayer was denied. The first time, which is the shortest prayer in his life, was for his sister. All right. The second time we read about, because right here we read about that his prayer was denied. Now, if you pray 515 times according to the gematria, then you could say, all right, but basically the same prayer. All right. A man who prayer always seemed to get through for the Creator, always seemed to deliver a people, always praying for someone else. And yet, when it became personal in his life, his prayer was denied. Because Miriam, though he was praying for her to be healed, it was personal because it was his sister. You didn't read where he even prayed for the nephews, after, they died. That was over with. But I'm saying, pray for, you read where he prayed for Aharon and the sin of the golden calf. You read this later on, that he prayed for Aharon, at the time. And yet, at this time, when he prayed, this is the second time we read about in the history of Moshe, that 2 prayers, just 2, personal prayer. One personal for the other people, and one personal because I want to be able to, proceed over to, be able to do those things I'm only taught. Not necessarily just because I don't want to die. It's because that I haven't accomplished the mission of my servitude to God as far as I'm concerned. I want to be able to do more. So, and when you're talking about grace, grace is not what your status was and what you did in the past. We read about when Solomon, for the sure mercies of his father David, that the kingdom was not even divided in his time. So when we look at those areas there, we find that this is one of a real touching opening for a man of Moses' stature. And then, like I said, and I often said in the past, no one would even pray on Moses' behalf as much as Moses prayed on the people's behalf. And you got to wonder, you just read earlier about they praise the leaders that dug the wells with their staff, but they haven't mentioned Moses, they haven't mentioned God. So you're saying, well, what mindset is in the people's eyes at this time? And then we know that this, he said, at that time, when he starts off saying he's seen things looking good. So he's seen Aaron's job being passed on to his sons. So we know he started his petition in the 40th year. We know in the 5th month, his brother Aharon died. So in the 40th year on Rosh Chodesh. So we don't have an idea exactly when he started the prayer, but we know this prayer was in the 40th year. And when you think about 500 and basically, 15 times with the gematria, it's only 300 and something days in a year. Lunar year, 354, 355, 356, depends, and a solar year, 365, 366 leap year. So that's basically just one time a day. But he didn't have that kind of time to do a prayer a day. So it's very interesting as we open up the book on that area. Then he goes on and I'm just going to highlight a couple more things in here. In the 4th chapter, it's talk about now and now, O Israel, hearken unto the statutes and unto the ordinances which I teach you to do them, that ye may live, and go and possess the land which the Lord, the God of your fathers, giveth you. You shall not add unto the word which I command you, neither shall you diminish it, that ye may keep the commandments of the Lord, your God, which I command you. I read that for a simple reason. We're not supposed to add unto the word which you command or diminish aught. Then why do people like myself and other people expound on what we read? Does it include that? Because I'm expounding different verses, giving scenarios, trying to bring the sense and understanding to a particular pursuit of verse or law. So why do I do that? And why do your various leaders in various congregations do the same? Teachers in other congregations do the same. Is that included? It means you must say what the Lord say. Read it literally as it is. And you must understand the contents, of this, that is, it is implied in, as well as apply it and make it applicable, not only to an individual that might need that kind of understanding, but also to the time period that's included, so people understand those things. So that's why we have very teachers expounding on the law. So some people run a little bit further than necessary and might omit a word, omit that. Sometime in translation, you might miss a certain concept, which we'll bring out a little bit later on. But basically, you do the best you can. That's why later on you're going to read that says, if there be a controversy, or that's in the particular book of Deuteronomy, if there be a controversy between blood and blood, plead and plead, and you should go to the priests, the Levites, the judges that shall be in those days. Well, say, okay, if they got the copy of the law here, do I need to ask the guy today what I read already that was written even before most of the guys that ever exist that I'm going to encounter? So those are some of the things to think about as we move forward. So, and one of the things in the third verse, your eyes have seen what the Lord did in Baal Peor. For all the men that followed Baal Peor, the Lord thy God had destroyed them from the midst of thee. But ye that did cleave unto the Lord your God are alive, every one of you, this day. Behold, I have taught you statutes and ordinances, even as my God even as the Lord my God commanded me, that you should do so in the midst of the land whither you go in to possess it. Observe therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the peoples let me read that again. Observe therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the peoples, that when they hear all these statutes shall say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. For what great nation is there that have God so nigh unto them as the Lord our God is whensoever we call upon him? And what great nation is there that has statutes and ordinances so righteous as all this law which I set before you this day? So what Moses present here is that other nations can recognize that we uphold the most highest moral code and ethics on the planet, cover all situations in our daily life, and they'll recognize it. But that is our greatness in that area, and that we are selected by the Creator, to be a light unto the world. A light means that I got to exhibit, or what we used to say in when I came up, be the message I bring in the song I sing. That's what we used to say. A light is actually the light is not burning for itself. It's burning for other people to find a spot, a certain direction. So now, when we say that, they didn't say those people would serve God. They didn't say about the worship service. They understand the practicalities of civilization of humanity, and they could respect all the humane laws dealing with humanity, and all the discipline of an individual that's handed down to God. They could understand that and see that, independent of saying, I'm gonna pray to God, or I'm gonna eat this way. They could see that it is a certain type of criteria, I'm serving God. So whether they look at eating kosher, what we consider, dietary laws, but they can understand about the humanity of, eating the mother and the offspring, at the same time. They could see that, or slaying them. They could see that kind of humanity. So those type of things I'm talking about, and in reference to that, and hopefully that you can see those different points, and you can always discuss it with your various teachers. All right, so I'm gonna skip through a lot because it's quite a bit here, and but I want to go. He reminds you about what we saw on Mount Horeb, in the 12th verse, and it said, "And the Lord spoke unto you out of the midst of the fire. You heard the voice of words, but you saw no form, only a voice, and he declared unto you his covenant." All right. So, and then it says, which he commanded unto you, even the 10 words, he wrote them upon 2 tables of stone. That's very important to understand. When we have a lot of discussions, and people say, "Oh, man wrote the Bible. Man wrote the Bible." We hear that all the time. Well, we read that the covenant that was given, and the Hebrew term, sometimes you might see it says Aseret HaDibro, but here it says Aseret HaDivarim in this particular portion. So Moses calls it, in this particular portion, Aseret HaDivarim. But you might find other places where it says Aseret HaDibro. All right. But basically, it's 10 words or 10 matters. All right. So now, if you say 10 words, then you say, well, everything's contained in those 10 words. So, so when we think about, we have terms like a davar, which is, a spoke or speaking or a lesson. Daber means to speak. All right. So, a speaker, or a word, but it's more a matter as opposed to the word milah. Milah means strictly WORD, word. That's a milah, basically, in that area there. Whereas daber, it could be a word, but it basically means a speech or it's a matter that's being discussed, a thing. All right. So so and then that only those things were written, and those tablets was put in the Ark of the Covenant when it was written by the and set the finger of God. So Moses didn't inscribe it. All he did was bring up the material and brought back some declaration of writing. And, at the time, he going to go more into it. Went back more into it about when he came down, his face shine. So this is what we have that's written with the finger of God. No other person in the planet with their doctrine could say their God, right, ever wrote anything down for them. You don't read that. Now, what you find in Buddhism, he was a regular man. So you got some things that, some things they say was written by him, but he was a man. It's only after his transition they look at him as divine, pretty much. But when you read about any other deity, you never read that concept where you had any information of a divine, writing anything down and passing the message on. We don't have that in any other doctrine. Even in we talk about the Islamic religion, and not to be condescending, but according to them, that the angel Gabriel supposed to came to Muhammad, peace and blessing, as they say, and told him the Quran, and he supposed to have wrote it on a palm leaf, whatever the case is. That's one of the things. But you got an angel, you got a man, different concept from what we have here. We have actual fingerprinting, of the creator of heaven and earth. And that should make us feel very exclusive. All right. So, and he goes on and tells us about not worshiping anything. All right. But we're reminded of that time in Mount Sinai. But when we come to Shavuot, we focus on basically bringing up some loaves. We focus on actually completing the count. We focus on the harvest, first fruits, and we also focus on a completion of the Exodus. But they never really tell us to focus on Mount Sinai in that sense when we talk about the laws of observing that particular time of the year. And we also read the Song of Songs during the time of the Megillah, Song of Songs during the Shavuot. What is being emphasized is that we don't remember our relationship with the Creator one time of the year. We don't remember that experience of our ancestors just once in our life. We're supposed to remember it every single day of our life. Be acknowledged and acknowledge it every single day. All right. So we're going to skip a little bit, and I want to just go into another area because there's so much stuff here. But I just want to save time and go into this particular area here. We got the cities of refuge that's mentioned in this particular chapter, and 3 cities appointed on the western banks. So with amongst Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh. So that's before we end that particular portion on the east side of the Jordan River. All right, so I want to skip down here in the 5th chapter, and it says, "And Moses called unto all Israel and said unto them, Hear, O Israel, the statutes and the ordinances which I speak in your ears this day, that you may learn them and observe to do them. The Lord our God made a covenant with us in Horeb. The Lord made not this covenant with our fathers, but with us, even us who are all of us here alive this day. The Lord spoke with you face to face in the mount of the midst of the fire. I stood between the Lord and you at that time. I declare unto you the word of the Lord, for you were afraid because of the fire and went not up into the mountain, saying, I am the Lord thy God. So now we get the commandments over again. So Moses reiterate what was stated here, and it's little changes here, but the Decalogue is recited here in this particular portion, reminding us that Moses, then, when all us heard the voice of God, all us wasn't able to stand in the voice of God, except for Moses. And we selected Moses. So we selected a man to hear something secondhand when we had the opportunity to hear it firsthand from the Creator himself. So that level that all those people were on, even the mixed multitude that sat at the foot of Mount Sinai that particular day, was on a higher level than any other prophets we read about in the scriptures. So only a prophet that had ascended that on that level to be able to hear like that was Moshe, out of Israel. But all other prophets out of Israel, they was never on that same level as the people that was at Mount Sinai. So that let you know how unique that assembly was and that experience was. And it was so frightful that it's indescribable, though people try to describe it, it's indescribable. All right. And we find and talk about the 18th verse. All right. I'm going to skip on the 18th verse down here before that. Let me just deal with the 15th verse of the 5th chapter. And thou shalt remember that thou was a servant in the land of Egypt, and the Lord thy God brought thee out thence by a mighty hand and by an outstretched arm. Therefore the Lord thy God commanded thee to keep the Sabbath. So he commanded us to keep the Shabbat. So that's why say you need some rest. You need to focus on me, yourself, your purpose. That's what Shabbat is all about. A lot of people prefer not to congregate themselves, take a little effort one day out of the week for maybe a few hours or two, to go to a particular place where you got people that are making that same kind of effort and sacrifice to come on and observe the Shabbat. When the Creator spoke at Mount Sinai, it says, Zakor et Yom HaShabbat, remember the Shabbat. All right. So if you told to remember, you know about something already if you told to remember about it. But what we have here, on in reference to that, and we was told not to, when the manna came, which is basically a month after, the Exodus out of Egypt, which is basically we're talking about another month, before, the month, a little bit more than a month before the Mount Torah, that we was told not to do certain things on the Shabbat, but observe it. That means that we had a particular rest. And when he freed us from the Egyptians, he freed us for a job under his authority. That's what the commandment let you know, that I brought you out from under their hand, but you got to have a job in life. Man had a job before he got on the planet. A job was waiting on him. So the Creator had a job for us, a unique job for us. All right, so I just want to read the 18th verse now. It says, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, neither shalt thou desire thy neighbor's house, his field, or his manservant, or his maidservant, his ox, or his ass, or anything that is thy neighbor's. All right, I want you to hold that point there and keep that in mind. And I'm going to move on to the 6th chapter. Let's bring out a couple of points in the 6th chapter, where we where it gets down to I'm starting from the top, but basically I'm going to focus on the Shema area. The 6th chapter, top of the verse, first verse. Now this is the commandment, the statutes and the ordinances which the Lord your God commanded to teach you, that you might do them in the land whither you go over to possess it, that thou mightest fear the Lord thy God, to keep all his statutes and his commandments, which I command thee, thou and thy son and thy son's son, all the days of thy life, and that thy days may be prolonged. What is interesting here, and let you know that if you're keeping God's law, you should be able to see 4 generations, at least 4 generations of your children. That means your son, your grandson, and your great-grandson. If you keep an observance to the Creator's law, you should be able to at least reach that far down, 4 generations. And it goes on to say, hear therefore, Israel, and observe to do them, that it may be well with thee, and that ye may increase mightily, as the Lord the God of thy fathers hath promised unto thee, a land flowing with milk and honey. Then we get into the 4th verse of the 6th chapter, which is very well known. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Now, this is what I want to spend a little time at before I, move on to a little bit about this season. Now, one, this is being said 40 years later. One, if you said, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. All right. All right. So now, if we know who our God is, then isn't it just one God we're serving? And then it would seem, okay, if there's no other gods but him, then why the need to say he is one? It should be obvious if the Lord our God, the Lord is one. So do we have a thing with polytheistic worship, a bunch of gods? I know a lot of people today, especially those that might go deep into what they call mysticism, various branches, whether they're Rosicrucian or Kabbalistic, they focus more on angelology and different angels doing this and that and the other, and that's why I like Isaiah coming up, when they're dealing with certain things. But it seems redundant to say, is he one? Naturally should be one. And it goes says in the 5th verse, and thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul and with all thy might. The last word, when the might is used the word, call meldeka, old means, exceedingly. When you say, told me, oh, that's like something very, very good, or exceedingly good. So all that might. What we have here is a command that's spoken on from Moshe. Moshe's telling the children of Israel this. Right here. Now, most of us, we see it all the time in the prayer book. And basically, we say that, and they call it the Kriyat Shema, the recitation of the Shema. We say it twice a day, all those that, at the minimum, twice a day. Hear, O Israel, Lord our God, Lord is one. Now, when we say that, it's not a prayer. Though most people find it in the prayer book, most people think of it as a prayer. It's actually a declaration. That's what it is. You're making a declaration, you're declaring that the Lord, the one you serve, YAH, is God alone. that you're making a declaration. A united God alone, He not split. And not no two. There's nothing to compare with. So what we have here, though, is a word of concern. All right. First, you should love Him, with all your heart, your soul, and your might. All right. So now, do I leave any room for anybody else to love anybody else or anything else? If I do all that for God, if I'm able to muster all that up for the Creator, then could I love a wife? Could I love my children? Could I love my mother? Could I love my father? You're not told to love any of those people in the scriptures. It was pointed out with Abraham, offer up, who you loveth, which was Isaac in his last trial. But there's nowhere in the scriptures, I mean, for us to, our, the Tanakh and stuff, the Chumash, that you are commanded, to love your mother or your father. You're commanded to honor them. You're commanded to fear them. You're not commanded to love your wife. So now what we have is, how do we exercise a command? How do somebody can command your emotions? Do you really have control of your emotions all the time? And can you love somebody that do you wrong, or you think they're wrong? All right. You're told to honor your mother and your father, but it's not told you. It's never told to love them. So, how do you honor somebody that you don't love? But if you love somebody, it's easy to honor them. So Moses commanded an emotion, and first of all, it's saying you're going to take all this here, your mind and then your heart. And he used the word heart. Heart spelled lamed veit. All right, just lamed veit. But in this particular portion, it's spelled with two veits. And now they try to explain this: the Yisrael hara, Yisrael tov, the good inclination and the bad inclination. You got sometimes the good inclination, and inside you have the bad inclinations. But when you look at it, that we are told, to love them, which is an emotion. Now, when things go bad in your life, you lost a loved one. How do you feel about God then? When you have tragedy in your life, you wonder where God is. How come you let this happen to me? Could I love him in a situation like that? But yet we are told to do that with our emotion. And love itself is an emotion. And most people say, well, I can hear you telling me you love me, but can you show me that you love me? But Moses commanded emotion more so than you command about what you're doing, in a sense. So when you check about things or people you love in your life, truly love in your life, most of the times that the people you really become to love in your life is the ones you tend to know the most about, or you think you know the most about. And when you figure you know the most about this individual, and a person is more loved by how they treat other people too. If a person tend to be show kindness, concern about another person, So when we're commanded to do certain laws, it didn't tell you to love the law. It tell you to love the creator, the giver, you know what I mean? The one who orchestrated the law. But in observing the law, you get to learn a lot more concerning the creator, and you can realize that it benefits me, and you can appreciate him for looking out for you. So that emotion. But then let me just throw one more thing in it, because I said I was going to get back to that last command: thou shalt not covet. Is covet an emotion? It's a thought. All right. And when they talk about coveting, it's a thought. All right. So now I'm cautioned not to make a plan. So I covet, if you covet your neighbor's wife, all right, that means you planning in the planning stage, but you don't implement the plan. But you're told not to even plan that way. But you're not implementing the plan. That's that last command. And then you say, okay, I have, a desire for his property. Oh, so now, how do I violate in that, in that area? How do I violate in that area? The guy got something I like. I'm gonna see, hassle him over and over again about sell me this, sell me that. I'm gonna give you a good deal. I'm gonna give you a good price for it. And if you badger him enough about an item he don't want to sell because you want it, because he have it, you want it not because you necessarily need it, but you want it because he have it. That's like the wife. You might want it because he have her, not necessarily because you need her. And it won't be able to, you won't need it anyway. But I mean, in that sense, if she's married, but not because you need her. And the same thing with property. It's not because you need the property. You want the property, and if you badger him enough, and you say, okay, you want me down. All right, you say you're gonna give me X amount of dollars for this year, this ox or this donkey or this house. Okay. All right, I'm tired of telling you no, I'm tired of going through this every day. I'm gonna sell it to you. Then you just violating that vicious law, coveting, because you wore them down, forced them into a situation. Planning, and the wife, if you mess with her, you say, "Oh, I'm doing. I'm thinking. I'm planning." I wonder how she, I could wind up making her mind. All right, constantly thinking on that alone. Now we ain't talking about the New Testament view. I know I'm aware of a New Testament view. If you look at a woman with lust in your eyes, she already committed adultery. I mean, I'm not trying to go that direction because so many flaws in that in that analogy there. But you thinking and planning and say, all right, I'm not executing the plan. I didn't execute a plan because perhaps you can't get away with the plan, and you don't know. You cover something, even if she wants you. You don't even say, they don't even take in consideration whether the female even wants you, with her plans. So all this is a thing where it's telling you to exercise a certain type of discipline in the right area. So you get to control your mind and control, so your seco, your intellect, then your heart. And also your hands. There's all this in the Shema that speaks on in this area there. All right. So when we look at that, I got to go back just one moment before I forget. Let me finish this point out. All right. And then it goes on to say, and these words I command you this day shall be upon thy heart, and thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thy house, and when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up. Now, the rest of this here is something that takes action. So just telling you about, you got to be a teacher some kind of way in form. Everybody must be able to teach something to your children. And then it says, and thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thy hand, and they shall be for frontlets between thy eyes. And thou shalt write them upon the doorposts of thy house and upon thy gates. Now, there's several things here, but this, I'm going to come back to that. I didn't want to be omitted. I could go back to 439 just for a moment. What we have here, I figure it's important, so I don't want to omit this here. And then I'm going to come back to where I'm at. So forgive me for trying to be a little bit too fast. So the fourth verse of the fourth chapter, 39th verse. You should know this day and take to your hearts that Adonai, he is God, in heaven above and on earth below, and there's no other. All right, we hear this in the fourth chapter, 39th verse. All right, because before that, you hear God's consuming a fire and a jealous God. We say this here, the 39th chapter, and those should be marking it down too. Which is, the 39th verse, fourth chapter, 39th verse. Should mark it down, because those that really go to a regular, service and read a regular prayer book, we say this every single day in the Eleno prayer. In the Eleno prayer, and it's the last line in the first paragraph of the Eleno prayer, which is the 39th verse. It goes, when your data hayom both time, Eleveka ki hu Adonai hu halihim. Pashamayim al haares mitaka ain old. That's where we stop there. So, they say ki, I'll just skip a little few of the words. Ki Adonai hu halihim pashamayim al haares. So that's basically, part of the Eleno prayer that you say, and that's where that particular last line, the first paragraph of the Eleno prayer come from. So now to get back to where I was, because I didn't want to omit that in that particular area. So when we look at this particular portion here, we're told this is in the singular. Now, in next week's Sidra Ekeb, you get the Kriyat Shema in the plural, this next standard that you say in the prayers. So that's what made me remember to go back to it. And next week you have the Kriyat Shema itself in the plural, but here's in the singular. And what we find here in this particular area here in the singular, in the Kriyat Shema prayer, is that we're told only now to do something physical. And we have things and focus on to fill in what they use today as to filling, which is the wraps, the leather wraps, for those who are not familiar with it, with a box and parchment on your head, on your arm, binding around your arm. So, and it has different verses, 4 verses from the commandment, 2 in one in the arm, several and inside the parchment that people wear every day when they do prayers, mostly in the morning. And when they talk about, but I want to focus on the mezuzah, all right, the doorposts. Write them on the doorposts of your house and appoint our gates. Out of all physical signs, now we read about the tzitzis that people have when they have on their clothes and stuff like that. They have 4 corners, kind of folds. So we have we read about the tzitzis as an outward sign, but on every doorpost of a house that's part parcel to this way of life, you have, some people were right, but basically it's a little parchment that sits on the door, some at an angle, some was always controversy. But some set it straight up and down, some put it at an angle towards the inside and the doorpost on the right side. And some might have it horizontal. They say one of the Sephardic custom, which is be horizontal. Rashi used to have it straight up and down. The son wanted to be, horizontal, so they compromised it and put it on the slant. So that's the way you mostly find the slant, the top part leaning inward and the bottom part leaning outward on the right side of the door. Now, that has various portions of law inscribed in it. And they give a little story, and I'm gonna be brief with the story here. I'm looking at my time. They gave a little thing about the story about mezuzah. Now, mezuzah basically literally means a doorpost. But the law itself is supposed to be a protection, so they have certain portions of protection here. And they told to do this here. And he told about binding. They extrapolate the word binding from Exodus to 13th chapter, binding for a sign upon the hand. So we read that, and they interpret it rabbinically about the tefillin, but must focus more on the. I want to focus more on the mezuzah. The mezuzah is on the doorpost, and it had parchments of different parts of the law in it, and it's a scroll. And people say, well, we put it up there as an identification. First of all, you put it up there as an identification mark, that this is what we do here. This is under the Constitution that makes up this particular household. So and you notice that when they went to the land, they had stones put up with laws, enumerated upon it. So most people look at it as a talisman, more so. And some people should put it close to the apex, which was the lintel of the door, as possible. But it's a famous scholar who was, by the way, not Israelite, Hebrew, but he converted to this way of life, named Onkelos. And they attribute the Aramaic Targum to Onkelos, translating it into the Aramaic. So he was a Roman, and he was actually a nephew of Hadrian. Now, Hadrian was a cold-blooded emperor. And we, when you go through history, you read about the Hadrianic, wars that we had. Onkelos was a nephew, and he converted to his way of life. And every time his uncle would send for him to come back to Rome, he sent some emissaries there, and he wound up convincing them, talking Torah and convincing them, and then they go back. And when they go back, they had converted, so the emperor would be upset. We don't know, we didn't read about where they killed them or not, for coming back without the nephew. And so he sent another group and say, don't discuss anything about Torah with him. So as the story goes, he goes back. They goes back and get ready to take him. And on while he's traveling with him, he said, I know that you're told not to discuss Torah with me, but he said, do you know when they start with the different levels of service, a slave, I forget the exact terms to use, but I'm just going to paraphrase now. A servant would carry a torch before before his master, right? And an ordinary man, would carry a torch, before the king. All right. He said, yes. He said, but God himself, who's the king of the heavens and the earth, he carried a torch for the nation of Israel. And they explained that he was in a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. And that's how he led them out and traveled through the wilderness by night with a torch. And he said, so why not serve a God like that? So those guys converted. So then he sent a third group. And the third group, before he sent them out, he said, look, don't discuss anything with them Torah or anything. And so they went to grab him and, and snatch him up. No conversation. And he supposed to have reached out and grabbed hold of the doorpost where the mezuzah was, and his hands on the mezuzah. And he cried out, he said, people outside always, defend the king and protect the king while he's inside. But here it is, God is outside protecting the people on the inside. So why not serve a God that he steps out in front and protect the people, as he said he would go before him and in conquering the land? Why not serve a God like that instead, and keep you inside safe, as opposed to you going outside and trying to keep the king safe? So those guys also converted because of the wisdom that he brought, and Hadrian never sent for Archelaus again. So that's basically a story that's handed down according to this famous guy Archelaus, was a Roman. All right, so I'm gonna stop there and go just to read a little bit in the book of Isaiah, a comfort in the 40th chapter of Isaiah, and I'm gonna highlight just a few points in there. So it's from the 40th chapter, first verse to the 26th verse. So it doesn't include the whole chapter of Isaiah. So I'm just going to start off a little bit, and you find the redundancy. All right, so if you're there, Isaiah 41. Yes. So one of the interesting things is that I had a discussion with my son, and we were talking about the last scolding of Shabbat, Kazon, and about the hop torah that was coming there, and then we were talking about also about the one before that with Jeremiah coming hard on the people, and the hop torah from Jeremiah, and he was saying, wouldn't that seem a little bit anti-Semitic? It's an anti-Semitic, and I said, well, you bring up an interesting point. That would be, anti-Semitic, and it's strange that, because if an Israelite comes against another Israelite about themselves and about what the nation not doing, and derogatory talk concerning the nation, then, and he's already, part of the nation, did he exclude himself or not? And so one of the things we know, Israelite, is sometimes we do the worst to our own people, being part of the people. So he said, but the things that he talked about the nation and the disparaging things that he brought out concerning the nation, those areas there, I said that would they charge people that say anti-Semitic because of their actions, But the only difference is Jeremiah and the different prophets was told by God, tell them about themselves, which is a hard job. To tell them about themselves. But if somebody else that's not of the nation tell them about themselves, then they always style that as anti-Semitic these days in time. But when you look in the book, when the prophets telling about ourselves, that's when our own coming about us and coming at us hard with the word of God. And he's supposed to be one of our brothers. And we don't consider that anti-Semitic. But in these days and times, so this is something to think about. All right, so let's continue. 40th chapter, Isaiah.
We're in the book of Isaiah, chapter 40, verse 1. It reads, comfort ye, my people, saith God, your God. Bid Jerusalem take heart, and proclaim unto her that her time of service is accomplished, that her guilt is paid off, that she have received of Yahweh's hand double for all her sins.
All right, stop right there before we go to third. All right. Hence the Shabbat Nakamu. Yeah, so Shabbat Nakamu, from the first words in Hebrew that's used in the book of Isaiah, which is comfort. And it's like a double confidence. I got to really exercise a strong effort now, because I done beat you down real hard. You've been beat down for 3 weeks real hard, being told about yourself. Now I got to, it's almost like we say when people go to those different programs. I don't know about the 12 steps or whatever. I'm just saying about other programs. People have inferiority complex, and sometimes they'll strip you down. In the life stream courses, they'll strip you down of any kind of identity, and they call themselves trying to build you back up with a new identity. So that I don't know. This would be more similar to one of them live stream programs. Like, comfort God strip you down so bad, make you feel so bad, make you feel so low, make you feel so repentant. Now let me tell you, try to build you back up, and let you know this is towards the end. Continue, third verse.
Verse 3 reads, Hark, one calleth, clear ye in the wilderness the way of Yehovah, make plain in the desert a highway for our God.
Uh-huh.
Every valley shall be lifted up, and every mountain and hill shall be made low,
Keep going.
and the rugged place be made level, and the rough places a plain.
Keep going.
And the glory of Yehovah shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together, for the mouth of Yehovah has spoken it.
All right, stop right here before we go any further. All right. When we read this here portion here, all right, most times when we think about Isaiah himself had already prophesied before the destruction of the first temple. And all the prophecy that we read about in Isaiah, especially in this particular portion here, doesn't take place, and during the time of the second Commonwealth coming out. They and a lot of times, a lot of scholars would say it's more of from the Messianic period, but it do start with the second Commonwealth in that area there, because we know Isaiah prophesies, and during his reign, we know that the northern kingdom had already went into captivity, and he prophesies basically 40 years. So some people some critics or different commentaries might say this is a third section or a different Isaiah. That I'll leave it to your teachers and various leaders to discuss. But you'll find from the consciousness within here that all the things he said is not the things that came about, but it does focus on the redemption of the people from Babylon and then the second temple, but it's not completed. Everything you're going to read and you check it out carefully is not done in that time period. All right, continue.
Verse 6, Hark, one saith, proclaim, and he saith, what shall I proclaim? All flesh is grass, and all the goodliness thereof is as the flower of the field. The grass
So in other
withereth.
words, I don't know what to talk about. You know what I mean? Because everything just here for a short span. So what time proclaim? But then it goes, but he started to talk here, and he said, what? Proclaim, he said, what shall I proclaim? All flesh is grass, and all the goodliness thereof is as the flower of the field. All right, so the Creator telling them, this is what I need you to say. Continue.
Verse 7, it reads, the grass withereth, the flower fadeth, because the breath of Yehovah bloweth upon it. Surely the people is grass. The grass withereth, the flower fadeth, but the word of our God shall stand forever.
Hold on right there. All right. Now, we just read where Moses reminded us about, we heard the very words of God, the voice of God. And we heard a voice. We see no manner of similitude. And we know in Genesis, if just the breath can animate, the breath from God, just his breath can animate the actual man, the first man, Adam. So how much more is the word of God to bring about a revival, of an individual that's depressed, downtrodden. So we heard the voice of God there, at Mount Sinai. And it's reminded now that those things normally come and go, die and wither. It's the voice of God when he called the whole world into existence and said, and God said. So that's his words, his voice. It gives a certain type of life. And that's what we got to, try to adhere to. And this is some of the analogies that it's making in reference to the Genesis story, to what Moses did at Mount Sinai and everything, besides going to some of the other midrash viewpoints. Continue.
Verse 9. O thou that tellest good tidings to Zion, get thee up into the high mountain. O thou that tellest good tidings to Jerusalem, lift up thy voice with strength. Lift it up, be not afraid. Say unto the cities of Yehudah, behold your God. Behold,
The Lord.
the Lord Yehovah will come as a mighty one, and his arm will rule for him. Behold, his reward is with him, and his recompense before him.
Okay, hold it right there before you even get any further to the 11th verse. All right. So right then and there is talking to the people of Yehudah now. Some of before they get ready to go into a situation, you're going to be able to come out this situation, because when Isaiah is pretty much speaking, it's before they actually go in, but you're going to be able to make it and pull it through. So Jeremiah is the prophet at the time that really focused more about, the doom, the impending doom, build houses, you're going to be okay, 70 years, you're coming from, and you're going to be able to make it out. But he don't speaks more on the hope, where Isaiah giving you a little bit of hope that things going to change. You're going to be all right in the long run. So can you imagine telling somebody you're going to jail? You're going to be there for X amount of time, 70 years, but a little short of 70 years. And then say, when you come out, don't worry about it, you'll be okay. He said, well, I'm in a place that I don't want to be. I'm brought off as a prisoner. I'm downtrodden already. I already upset the person, the warden, which would be the creator. And he said, I'm going to come on out. You're going to be okay. It's hard to really love. And then get back to the Shema. It's hard to really love an individual when they say, I'm going to be okay after I get this beat down. But this is one of the things we read here. All right, so pick it up from the 11th.
Verse 11, it reads, even as a shepherd that feedeth his flock, that gathereth the lambs in his arm, and carrieth them in his bosom, and gently leadeth those that give suck.
Keep going.
Who have measured the waters in the hollow of his hand, and meted out heaven with the span, and comprehended the dust of the earth in a measure, and weighed the mountains in scales, and the hills in a balance.
Okay, hold right there. All right. So now, this is what it's talking about, the creator, that he's able to do all these things. Everything is accounted for. So we might have a bad math, we might have a bad addition. We might don't know how to multiply or subtract or divide. We might have those type of inadequacies within us. But the creator always brings everything in balance. So the mathematician, all mathematician, he said everything is calculated. It ain't haphazard. So we're not living just strictly, and let's just say, I always use this phrase, but picking up from Jesse Jackson, who made it famous, keep hope alive, keep hope alive. What we say, we say, okay, but I already calculated when this hope going to be reach fruition. So it's already calculated here. And, but whether you're going to make it through that particular point in time, that's another thing. All right. So let's go for the 13th verse.
Verse 13, it reads, who have meted out the spirit of Yehovah, or who was his counselor that he might instruct him?
Oh, right there. In other words, right then and there. Who was able to measure that spirit of the Creator? Who's able to measure that out? Saying you only got so much power right here. You only could go so far. Because if you can measure it, that means you're superior to him. And if you can measure anything that the Creator does, then you're superior to the Creator. And this is what he's bringing out right now. And said, nobody else could tell me how long it'll be. And it said, or who was his counselor that he might instruct him. We read about wisdom, we read about understanding. We read about wisdom talking about herself in the Proverbs, and said wisdom hung out, according to the Proverbs, with prudence, and understanding. So, but they was created by the Creator, not them influencing the Creator. And that's what I'm saying. So it's so hard to, so it used to be a jazz song, trying to make it real, but compared to what? You can't compare the Creator with anything because it's beyond comparison. It's unique within himself. Continue.
Verse 14, it reads, with whom took he counsel, and who instructed him, and taught him in the path of right, and taught him knowledge, and made him to know the way of discernment.
Hold it right there. All right. Then we just read a while back in one of the admonishments, said, come, let us reason together. All right. No God and no other ideology ever said, come, let us reason together. Let us reach an understanding. That means if I say, let us reach an understanding, that would imply that I don't know how to deal with you. But the Creator know how to deal with it. So when the Creator telling us to reach understanding, he shows, how much he care for us. It's like you tell your child, come over here, let's talk. And the child's about 7 years old. You try to explain why he must do his homework in school, why he must clean up his room, why he must, make sure he keep his hygiene up. And you trying to explain that to him. Say, look, what do you think about that? And you ask him, what do you think about that? Now you already know what he need to do, but you might invite them to say, what do you think about that? Do you think that would help you out a lot better? Because you're always talking about you can't find your sock, you can't find this other shoe, you don't know where your shirt is, why this is not pressed, what I'm supposed to wear, where my lunch. So when you tell them how to structure things, and you say, don't you think that'll work better for you? Especially if it's something they want to know. Where's your skates at? Where's your basketball at? Where your jogging suit at? Where the sneakers you just got at? So you bring your child to talk to him, knowing you already got the answer for him, but you're trying to invite dialogue to show more of a concern and care and reaching down his level. All right. So the Creator saying, look, no one taught me knowledge. No one, and then know the way of it, my discernment, how I think. God made man, and man been trying to figure out and make God ever since. And that's what we do. Continue.
It reads, verse, give me 1 second here. So,
15.
verse 15, it reads, behold, the nations are as a drop of a bucket, and
Keep
are
going.
counted as the small dust of the balance. Behold, the isles are as a mote in weight, and Lebanon is not sufficient fuel, nor the beasts thereof sufficient for burnt offerings. All the nations are as nothing before him. They are counted by him as things of naught and vanity.
Right.
To whom then will you liken God, or what likeness will you compare unto him?
Okay. So right there and there, that's a question that the prophet bringing to the people. All right. But anyway, 19th verse. Let's go.
Verse 19, it reads, the image perchance which the craftsman has melted, and the goldsmith spread over with gold, the silversmith cast in silver chains. A home oak is set apart. He chooseth a tree that will not rot. He seeketh unto him a cunning craftsman to set up an image that shall not be moved.
All right. I mean, some people have money. They can be a big time idol. When the guy get a little down on the finances, he said, "Well, look here, I need me some kind of idol, so I'm gonna make me one of but make it really pretty. So I'm gonna get some wood. All right. So when one start off with expensive idol, another one said, "Look, I need me some idol too, but I'm gonna get something a little cheaper, something within my pocket range." But one of the things is that, the prophet asks, who you going to prepare God with? Who could you compare him with, and who you going to be likened to? We always got this image of what God looked like. Always got this image. Anytime you think of God, in most societies, if God was a man, how would he look? And then nowadays, if God was a woman, how would he look? So, which is really different, because why would he take second as opposed to first? But I don't want to, create any problems between the sexes. But that one thing was made first, and the other thing came second. Even if you say they came together, male or female, well, how come we always keep saying "sakah unekiva"? In Hebrew, "sakah unekiva." All right, continue.
It reads, verse 21. Know ye not, hear ye not, have it not been told for you from the beginning? Have ye not understood the foundations of the earth?
In other words, did you read Genesis? That's all. Did you read Genesis? Did you read Bereshit? Did you learn anything from that? That's why the camp I'm from, we always focus on Genesis. That was like our main book we focus on. And, it was one reader, one teacher, chief counsel, Danielle, blessed memory. And he said, you got to read that book. You never get out of Genesis. You got to read that book, and you're always going over it, because there's always some deeper insight when you read Genesis. There's always something that you never get a chance to cover. Even if you know about it, you don't get a chance to cover it and tie it into other things. And then times change, so you might have to relate it to the day you're speaking. All right, continue. 22.
Verse 22, it reads, it is he that sitteth above the circle of the earth, and the inhabitants thereof are as grasshoppers, that stretch out the heavens as a curtain, and spreadeth them out as a tent to dwell in.
Okay, all right there. Before you go 23. All right, 3 more verses. One of the things is that most Kabbalists, and some people could figure that if God is all and everything, then it's he had to suck himself in order to make space, instead of just create space, from nothing, create nothingness, have a spot where he creating and forming things. So here, and let you know that he's outside of his creation. He's not within the creation. He endowed the creation with some of his essence, but he stands outside while he's creating. It's like the artist is not in the picture that he's drawn. He's standing on the side. Though you find his character, is in the picture that he's drawn, but he himself, even made a picture of himself and drew it on the board, it's still not him in that area. So when the creator says he stood outside, that he formulated stuff where he making things effective without affecting himself. And that's the difference. When an artist draw the painting, he is not part of the painting. He's independent of the painting. The painting doesn't affect him. He affects it. And so just like a guy made an idol, he's outside of that. The creator, he's saying the creator is like that. When he formed everything in the beginning, he's above and beyond all that. But continue.
Verse 23, it reads, that bringeth princes to nothing, he maketh the judges of the earth as a thing of naught. Scars are they planted, scars are they sown, scars have they stock taken root in the earth. When he bloweth upon them, they wither, and the whirlwind taketh them away as stubble.
Keep going.
To whom then will you liken me that I shall be equal, saith the Holy One?
All right. Now that's the creator saying. I done gave you some resume, and on local stuff. on local stuff, not heavy stuff, on the local stuff. Something that you could understand, that you could identify with, because we ain't talking about the atom, because I can't see an atom. You know what I mean? So we ain't talking about this fusion stuff. I can't see that. So I'm talking about some local stuff, all right, that you could comprehend. And it's for everybody across the board. Continue.
Verse 26, it reads, lift up your eyes on high and see who have created these. He that bringeth out their host by number, he calleth them all by name, by the greatness of his might, and for that he is strong in power, not one faileth. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. So I'll let you know right then and there that if some of us can't remember all the names of people in our family, and most of us only know nicknames of certain members of our family. We go to find out what's on the birth certificate. I never knew that was on there. So the Creator not only called everything by name, if he left Adam to name the things down here, don't you think the Creator knew how to name everything himself? And if Adam had a memory, that super powerful memory, that he can remember, I called this over here that, I called this over here that. And then, sometimes if you be introduced to an individual for the first time, I'll say, what's your name? And so. In less than 1 minute, you walk away and come back. You say, what'd you say your name was again? The Creator's not like that, and everything he does, if you name everything, that means you got it systemized. That means it's organized. That means it's itemized, and it has a value system outside of you because you gave the value system to it. So with that, I hope you got something of what I said. I know I bounced around a little bit, but any mistakes been my own. And then you can leave your comments in the chat. And as I say, Shalom Aleichem and early Shabbat Shalom.
Hallelujah. Torah by Nasik. May the Most High God bless each and every one of you. Don't forget, you could leave your comments in the chat, or if you're watching this video after it premieres, you could leave your comments in the comment section, or your comments or your questions, most importantly. It doesn't have to be on the topic, but just leave your questions so that when Nasik goes back and look at it, he could answer your questions. So everyone, be blessed. May the Most High God bless you. Everyone have a good Shabbat rest. Hallelujah. Shalom, shalom.
Right. Amen. Shalom.
Let's get knowledge, wisdom, understanding. We'll do our standing. All praises to the Most High, His laws and commandments. The CHOKMAH BINAH here to push it through your speakers. Judgment, truth, and love should be coming from the leaders. Yeah, knowledge, wisdom, understanding. We'll do our standing. All praises to the Most High, His laws and commandments. The CHOKMAH BINAH here to push it through your speakers.